Theresa May saying she may change human rights laws. I just want to deal, if we can, with specifics about what she said and get your view on that. She has said, for example, she will want to make it easier to deport foreign terror suspects. Would you agree with that?
We need to make sure we're secure. That means having an efficient, fully staffed police force. She's the one who presided over the loss of 20,000 police officers over the past 5 years. What we've said is we would immediately employ 10,000 more police officers and properly fund our security services. We won't defeat terrorism by ripping up our basic rights and our democracy. We defeat terrorism by our communities, by our vigilance, and by police action to isolate and detain those that would wish us harm. Obviously, if somebody is a foreign national resident in Britain who is committing crimes, then clearly the law is there to take its course now. The issue is police numbers and police security.
I'll just talk about one of those other things as well, if we could. She's talking about, the Prime Minister, restricting freedom of movement of those who present a threat. Is that something that you would echo?
Well, if somebody presents a threat, then you take action against them. What I don't want is executive orders where politicians can make decisions outside of the law and just decide what will happen to an individual. There has to be a judicial process. Listen, if our democracy is under threat, you strengthen your democracy in order to deal with that threat. That is a fundamental to our way of life and our society. Deal with the threat by proper policing and police numbers.
One of those involved in the London attacks, we now know, Yusuf Zagbar, was allowed to return to the UK, wasn't he, despite being on a watch list. Under your government, if you were in government, should that be allowed to happen?
Obviously, we need to report on what happened in his case. Obviously, there needs to be a full examination of what happened in Westminster some weeks ago, what happened in Manchester, and what happened in London, and see if any procedures need to be changed. I can't really comment on what happened to interviews to him on his return, because obviously I wasn't a party to them, and I think we need that report. But quite obviously, if somebody is a known and credible threat, then obviously they shouldn't be allowed in.
So just to be clear, if someone is on a watch list, in your view, should they be allowed back into the UK or not?
It depends on what sort of watch list they're on and what sort of threat they are, and I think we have to look at it in that sense. It's very difficult to comment on a case when none of us, neither you nor I, were a party to the interviews that took place or what the level of threat was. But the issue has to be the security of all of us, and that means having a properly resourced police service across the whole country. This government cut 20,000 police officers in the last 7 years.
Let's talk about, you mentioned, didn't you, talking about strengthening the democracy. Does that include changes to laws if there needed to be some? And what might there be needed, what changes might there need to be?
Well, our democracy is central to our lives. The independence of our whole judicial system is absolutely central to our lives. And I become quite alarmed when the Prime Minister and others start talking about the need to change our human rights legislation. Our fundamental rights are very, very important. The right to free speech, the right to free assembly, the right to free elections, the right to access to media, and of course the right to elect our politicians. All these things are absolutely central to our lives. Let's hold those as our central core beliefs. The threat to us from terrorist attacks has to be dealt with by effective policing and an effective security service. You don't trade one off against the other. You make sure our democracy is fully intact and the threat is dealt with by an effective, properly resourced police force. You can't get security on the cheap.
Let's also move, if we could, to talk about the economy and money, of course, as well, because that's so much central to what people are concerned about. The Institute of Fiscal Studies have looked at your manifesto and the Conservative manifesto as well, saying that both fail to set out honest set of choices. But specifically about your manifesto, they say that proposals cannot work because you cannot hope to raise that amount of money which you have said you will do.
What they've said is that our manifesto would change society, would end austerity and would invest in good quality public services. What they've said is the Conservative manifesto will lead to a poorer, more divided country as a whole. They have not costed the new taxes that we put in because they're unable to cost them because they don't exist as yet. And we're quite clear that we can raise the money necessary in order to bring about real changes. Schools properly funded, hospitals properly funded, social care properly funded. None of these things are possible unless you raise tax from the biggest corporations and the very wealthiest people in order to do that. Listen, we've had 7 years of austerity. 5 years more of a Tory government will lead more children being poor, more schools underfunded, more hospitals with longer queues and waiting lists, and even more depression within our society. What we offer is hope. What we offer is opportunity. What we offer is a real opportunity for all of our young people to achieve their best in life. That surely is the real choice in this election.
Let's talk about your Shadow Home Secretary, Diane Abbott. Does she have your confidence?
She's not well a couple of days and she's taking a break from the campaign. Of course, Diane is somebody that works extremely hard, that represents her community very well, and I have to say has received totally unfair levels of attack and abuse, not just recently, over many years.
I'm sorry to ask, how long is she taking a break for?
I'll be talking to her later on today. She's not well at the moment.
Okay, it's 51 days, and thank you for talking to us. I can hear from your voice that you sound tired. I'm wondering...
I'm not tired and my voice is fine, don't worry about that.
Okay, how's the allotment going?
The allotment is fine, my vegetables are growing extremely well, my voice gets stronger as the day goes on, and I'm just about to speak at the 84th rally that I've done in this campaign, right here in Buchanan Street in Glasgow, and then I'm going on to more rallies all over the country, ending in my constituency at 9 o'clock tonight. And you know what? This is the most fantastic, people-powered campaign I can ever remember in any election. And you know what? I'm really enjoying it, and so are the people that are going into this campaign, hopeful that we can change this country and give our young people a real chance and our older people the protection they deserve from a community that wants to come together.
Jeremy Corbyn, thank you for your time here on Breakfast this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me on Breakfast today.